It's Game Boy World, and this is a game no one loves. At this point in Game Boy World, we're pretty deep into the weeds. Games like SD Gundam, Sengokuden, and Trump Boy here exist, but there's very little information about them on the English-speaking web. Heck, there's not much in Japanese either. A Wikipedia page and lots of retailers listing secondhand copies of Trump Boy. But I can't seem to find any fond retrospectives about it. The game might as well not even exist. Yes, this is one of the Game Boy's forgotten titles, included on sites like GameFAQs and Giant Bomb to fill out their databases for the sake of completion, with maybe a tiny scrap of video footage to be found on YouTube. And that's it. Even more than something like Cubillion or Flipple, Trump Boy's primary legacy is that, well, it happened to exist. Someone programmed it and published it, and apparently enough people bought it to justify a sequel. Not that I imagine it took much for this game to break a profit. This is the most absolute bare-bones Game Boy release we've seen to date. Heck, it makes Yakuman look posh. The no-frills presentation of Trump Boy encompasses 3 sub-games: Daifugo, also known as Millionaire or Asshole, Speed, and Nervous Breakdown, which is basically just concentration with an entire deck of cards. Despite the presence of a gangly-looking mascot character on the box, presumably the Trump Boy himself, he shows up nowhere in the game itself. Instead, it's just a series of no-frills card games, with the only luxury being a multiplayer option. Really, that's the most interesting thing about Trump Boy. Because the main mode, Millionaire, is designed for 5 players, it's the first Game Boy title whose frustrations and deficiency can't be stripped away by engaging the link cable. The majority of the players in Millionaire will always be the computer, and they'll always have a cheesy, unfair advantage over the human players. Speed fares a bit better since that's made for 2 players, and finally Nervous Breakdown should only be played against another person because the computer always makes matches, including an uncanny predilection for finding matches beneath cards that have yet to be flipped. Even an eidetic memory is no match for Trump Boy's love of dishonesty. I suppose the proper game historian thing to do here would be to give a better breakdown of Trump Boy's 3 modes, but again, they're far from interesting, and all of them are based on existing card games, none of which is really strong enough to carry this collection on its own, or even in tandem. No, Trump Boy is one of Game Boy's forgotten creations, and for good reason. Consisting of a meager 3 card games, none of which is particularly thrilling, there's little here to demand attention. The game and its sequel never made their way outside of Japan, so they weren't exactly clamoring for attention in any case. In its defense, Trump Boy 2 offered a more elaborate presentation with more elegantly designed graphics and better games. It also featured mascot characters represented with portraits in-game. Where the original Trump Boy just dumped a bunch of plain Jane card games on you, the sequel arted things up a bit, and it swapped out the miserable Nervous Breakdown concentration mode for a game of 7s, also known as Parliament. I'm actually a little surprised Trump Boy turned out to be so dull. It comes from developer Pack-In Video, whose previous Game Boy outing, Navy Blue aka Battleship, added some nice visual flourishes to a real-world game concept. You'd think they'd have invested even a fraction of that artistry to Trump Boy, but you'd be wrong. In any case, Trump Boy existed, and it let people play some card games on their Game Boys. I guess that's something. For more games you'll forget all about as soon as the video's over, keep reading GameBoyWorld.com. Please reach into the kindness of your soul and support this project on Patreon or by buying the book. Next time, we'll have a look at the craziest Game Boy game ever made.